welcome to the Victory Speaks Minding Our Mind series, where iron sharpens iron. That's you and me sharpening each other. I'm your host, Nicole Waldron, your voice of victory and your mental fitness coach. And I'm on a mission to curate inspiring life conversations with everyday experts, unsung heroes, and thought leaders that will empower us to live a victorious lifestyle. Our physical and mental wellness is a journey that we have to make an intentional choice of to take care of. That is something we cannot always do alone. In this series of the Victory Speak Show, we focus on our mental health and wellness. And as you join me on this journey through these Minding Our Mind conversations, I hope you will be inspired to be more intentional about your mental health and wellness. As we cultivate the victory mindset, today, let us be intentional and make ourselves a priority. As we take one step daily, mindfully, we can improve our lives for the better. I invite you to get a nice drink, sit back, get a snack, grab a notepad, as you just never know when a wisdom key can be dropped. Please share this with your friends and get ready to engage with us. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from, what time it is where you are. And it's a beautiful Wednesday early evening here in Toronto, Canada, and the trees are telling me that we are totally in springtime. A week ago, there were no leaves on the trees, and here we are. Spring is such a refreshing time, a time that we can just renew ourselves, renew our minds, renew our hearts, our souls, and our spirits. And so I hope that this show that we have curated for you tonight will do just that. I don't want to delay because I'm so excited by my guest tonight. And I'm going to use my favorite word with him. He's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And tonight it's about mental health matters. But you're going to learn a little bit about my guest. He is, I call him Dr. Berry. I have given him his doctorate because when I speak with him, I feel like I'm in school. I'm always learning. And he's a man of many things, and you'll learn more about him as you tune in. Be sure to share this with your friends and your family. Tell us where you're tuning in from. So, Chan is a multifaceted filmmaker, a producer, a prolific songwriter, a painter, and definitely an advocate. He is all about community. His love for filmmaking and music is, woven throughout his 30-year career. I think it's more than 30 years. And, he's distinguished himself as an award winning documentary filmmaker by tackling topics that uncover and celebrate the nuances of the African diaspora. Drawn to the bare bones, unstructured nature of documentary filmmaking, he refreshes in the development process, pulling out the story during the interview and finding new talent. Now, he's currently working on several film projects, and you're going to find out about them as you tune in, as you listen. And one is specifically on mental health and wellness. Can't wait to dive into that part of the conversation. Some of you may know Chan because he and Bill Duke directed the award-winning film Dark Girls and Dark Girls 2, and it was aired on the OWN network. And in this time when we're dealing with race, when we're dealing with so much in society, it is definitely a film that one wants to go back and reflect on. We're going to learn about Chan's past, and he's a songwriter who's written songs with Shaka Khan and Prince and the jazz legend Nancy Wilson, and so many more. There's so much to Chan. So you don't need to hear from me. You need to hear from him. So I want you to give a warm Victory Speaks welcome with your hearts, with your comments, with your thoughts, and welcome the awesome Dr. D. Channsin Berry to the Victory Speak show today. How you doing, Chan?
He says, I'm decent today. I'm decent today, just dealing with a sinus infection and sore throat. So everybody excuse me if I go in and out. But
Well, we give you a
I'm
lot
here.
of grief here.
I'm here.
You know what? The fact that you're under the weather and you still showed up, I'm so grateful. Love More, so great to have you here. And thanks for the compliment. You're loving my colors. I'm inspired by you, Love More, calling me Dr. Nicole. So, Chad, tell me something. You're on the Victory Speak show. And sometimes I like to ask this question at the end, but today I want to ask it at the beginning. What does victory look like to you?
Hmm. What does victory look like to me? Um, I'm still in the middle of it.
Mm. So what does that mean?
Um, you know, every day is a bit of a fight.
Hmm.
Every day is a day of recognition, a day of learning, understanding. Uh, and I try to have days of meaning and purpose.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I've had victory yet, but I think I'm in the middle of it. So that's kind of a deep question, because I look at that question from a couple of different standpoints.
Hmm.
As an African American man, um, there is very little victory,
Mm.
especially when the fight is still going on.
Right.
To be human, to be recognized, to be acknowledged, to be loved.
Hmm.
So I think I'm in the middle of victory, but I haven't reached it yet.
It's so interesting that you say that because, when I look at victory, I see victory as the small wins along the way. People always talk about success, and I hear you when you say we have a long way to go. But when I look at you and your career and what you've done, you have so many victories along the way. So many, your work, you do so much advocacy in your work. You do so much in your speaking and in your daily life, even in just your regular Facebook and Instagram posts. You're always inspiring somebody to live that life, to come alive. And I think one of the things with victory is you keep hope alive. And when you can instill hope in others, that's to me that's a victorious moment. It's all those little victories when you put it all together, you get the big wow, but it's the little victories along the way.
Okay, if you if I'm able to change a person's life for the positive, for the good, for the
Hmm.
better, then that's a victory, I guess. But
And it,
as for
mhm, go
myself,
ahead.
I just haven't reached it yet.
Well, my brother, I think you're changing many lives. So who is okay? If you say that, then so who is Chan? Who is D. Chanson Berry?
I am a child of God.
Yes.
I am a father. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. I'm an uncle. I'm a brother. I'm a godfather. I'm an artist. And I am forever grateful um, for being gifted the way that I am, that I'm able to lead people in a positive direction.
Mm.
I mean, that's my purpose on the planet. My purpose on the planet, I knew when I was 9 years old,
Wow.
growing up in East Orange and Maplewood, New Jersey. So um, I thought that everybody knew what their purpose was. They had a meaning and a purpose. And when
Right.
I found out that people didn't like it, I thought it was weird. You didn't know what you wanted to do, who you wanted to be. But I found out that I was a little different. And I've always been a little different. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
always been different. But I'm glad that I am a little different. And some people can take me, and others can't.
Well, you
But
know what? I'm going to say that. it's like a radio frequency, right? It's like a
Mm,
radio station, and I know you can identify with this. Having done your stuff in radio, everybody
yes,
has a different channel. Everybody has a different frequency,
that's right.
and there's what 6 billion people in the earth. We're only good for some.
Yes.
You know, if you were to look back on your life,
Mm.
how would you say that growing up, how does that shaped you into the man that you are now?
Um, hmm. My childhood, I would say, my dad and I didn't have the best relationship growing up. My parents, together, and my sister. Um, I think my dad didn't understand who I was until I was in my 20s.
Mm.
And I wasn't allowed to speak a lot in my home. So I was shut down. And I think it was shut down emotionally also.
Hmm.
But it wasn't, excuse me, if it wasn't for my mother and my uncles and my aunts, I would probably be not, I wouldn't be here. Excuse me, I probably wouldn't be here.
Wow.
Um, I was interested in radio. And in New Jersey, where I grew up, I listened to AM radio back in the 60s and part of the 70s. And then FM became FM radio.
Right.
And there was a station called WBLS in New York. And there was a gentleman who became the top disc jockey in the nation and became and led as a program director also, the number one station in America, WBLS in New York. His name was Frankie Crocker. And I was like so many who grew up in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I um, I was enthralled with this guy. I was like, this guy is where I want to be.
Right.
He was classy, he was good looking, he had a great voice, and had great taste in music, and understood his audience. So I said, that's part of what I want to do because I could go on radio and speak, but no one could see me.
Mm.
And that's how I got into radio
That is a profound statement. You can go in onto radio and speak, and no one could see you. Why didn't you want anyone to see you, Chan?
because I wasn't used to people seeing me.
And
I,
it's
wa-
interesting.
I wasn't used to people hearing me either. But I figured out that I did have a voice
Mm.
and that I did love music. I love music. And I have an extensive record collection. And because of Frankie and other people in my life, I decided to try it. And it worked for a few years in radio.
But
But
where
I,
did you develop the love for the music? Because, you know,
oh my God, music.
because
They
you
told
you're a music connoisseur. Like your whole timeline is like music. Every week I can get my playlist from Dr.
me,
Chan.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes. I mean, from Led Zeppelin to Stravinsky to James Brown to Her to Bruno Mars to Mays and Frankie Belly to Peter Tosh to Beethoven to Bruce Springsteen to Led Zeppelin to Janis Joplin to Maxi Priest. I love it all. I love it all. And they say um, when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I was at my grandmom's house in Newark, New Jersey, and they said they would put on a record, and I would hit the floor like
So you're a dancer too.
that. Well, I don't know about that anymore, but I could shake a tail feather. So
So
music has always been around, and it's just a part of. It's like a second breath.
listen, folks. Thank you for joining in. You're listening live and on the replay. I got, I call him the doctor, but D Channsin Berry here, and like he is just such an amazing individual. And when you look at his music collection, it is so fantabulous. I'm going to tell you, you got to check out his Facebook page because when he drops the music, sometimes on the weekend or in the middle of the week, you got your playlist. You got the playlist of all playlists there. Sometimes I hear about music, I'm like, who is that? And I go look some stuff up. I can have my own party with your playlist, man.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, I do it because I love it, and I think, I love turning people on to music.
Mhm.
It keeps me happier. Uh,
Is that your joy place? Is that one of the things that brings you joy?
Definitely playing music. You know, dealing with my records, writing music. Excuse me, writing music, and film, watching movies.
So how did you even get into like writing music? And so you're in radio, you're doing documentaries and you're writing music. Like, how did all these three come together? Because you went from being invisible to a little visible talking on radio, and now you also make people visible.
Mm.
It's such an interesting thing that you do.
Yeah, I make other people visible.
Why is
It's
that important to you?
I think that women and African Americans need all the voices they can get and hear and see.
Mm.
All women, all African Americans. So if I can tap into that and
Mm.
be part of the positive and moving people forward, then that's what I'll do and have done, hopefully.
No, I think you definitely are. And when I look at your songwriting and some of the people that you've written for,
Hmm.
you know, how did you even cross over into getting to write for, people would be impressed by your music list. And I know you're not a bragger. You just love what you do and you do what you love. But how does it feel? And I'm sure people out there want to know, how does it feel to work with some of the great legends in our time?
I This is the God's truth. I really don't think about it.
I know.
I don't really talk about it a lot. I just I just do it. I just do it. I started songwriting when I was 12 years old, and nobody knew. Me
Hmm.
and my best friend Eric had a band in East Orange. It was my best friend Eric and a bass player named Billy Staples, and little band, playing little local gigs. Then I would play with my cousin Kevin. Kevin was a keyboard player. I was a drummer, and I was writing songs for a while, but it wasn't until I had moved to from New York to Oakland, and I became friends with Rosie Gaines, singer Rosie Gaines from the Bay Area. That's when I first decided to let somebody hear a song that I wrote. And she liked it, and she took it, and she said, "I like this song." I didn't think anything of it. You know,
Right.
a few months later, I get a telephone call on a Tuesday night, raining in Oakland, and it was Rosie. She said, "Hey, Chan." I said, "Hey, Rosie, how you doing? Long time no hear from." "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in Minneapolis recording my album, and I want you to sit down." "We need to sit down." She said, "You sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, sure, yeah." She said, "Prince has cut your song."
Wow.
So I paused, and I'm like, Prince who?
Prince Harry. Yeah.
What are you? What are you telling me here?
Hey.
So I was taken back.
Mhm.
He got on the phone. He said he wants. She said he wants to talk to you. I said, okay. So we spoke. He said, "Hey man, nice tune, funky. I changed a few things on it because originally the song was entitled Joy and Pain, and
Mhm.
Prince decided to cut the pain. So he recorded it, and at the time, Paisley Park and Warner Brothers were going at it.
Right.
And a few months later, I had moved to LA anyway, working for Disney. Excuse me. And I got a call from one of the attorneys, and from Rosie, saying that Prince just has his name on the song.
Whoa.
I said, really?
Hey.
Well, that won't work because I have the original right here. So my attorney got with his attorney and worked it out. And then we had 50-50 split
Good
on
on
the.
you.
So the song never came out on Rosie because of Paisley Park and Warner Brothers thing.
Mhm.
I took the song back and gave it to Shaka Khan, and Shaka recorded it.
Wow.
Then Rosie recorded it, and then Rosie released hers, and then Prince released his version.
You want
Because
to tell
Prince,
us a song? You want to tell us a song, Chan?
it's called Pain. It's called Pain,
Mhm.
and Prince did his version, and Miles Davis is playing on the solo, and I was just done after that.
You know, like I think about musicians. I think about you being a young man getting that call. What did it feel like? Because what did that feel like? What did it do to your mental wellness? Like, because was it feeling pressurized? What were the feelings going on in your head when you got that call, and then having to go through the challenges of having to do a legal thing with Prince of all people?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was very emotional about it when I hung up the
Right.
phone from talking to him and Rosie. It was very emotional. Um, it took me a little while to get over that.
Mm,
Years. It took me years to get over that. And it also gave me the stamp of approval that I'm not a bad songwriter,
yeah.
that I did have something to say, and and the genius recognized
Right.
it. A genius recognized it, and that set me on my way to writing with a buddy of mine when I came to LA, John Prue, who's a great pianist, songwriter in his own right, and we became songwriting partners, and we wrote several songs together. But the one that won the Grammy was for Nancy Wilson,
Hmm.
called "These Golden Years,"
Hmm.
from the last album that Nancy recorded was a studio album called "Turn to Blue," and our song is on there, and we won a Grammy in 2007, seven, I think. Excuse me.
Chan, as I listen to you, um, we already were talking about the show and people's mental health and stuff. I think about, people getting into the music business, people in the music arena, having to deal with that kind of stuff. And so, what would you say to younger Chan that would help him, and that may even help another songwriter, musician, entertainer that is going through it right now, so that they can stay centered and even navigate through the processes that you knew you had to navigate through?
Don't listen to people.
Mm, Now that's easy to say, but how do you do that? How do you do that when you're feeling the anxiety, when you're feeling the stress, when you want to be that success,
God gives us many things
right?
to many people, all unique, all very special, all very much yours.
Mhm.
So if an idea or something comes to you, it's yours. If you don't act on it or don't believe it,
Mm,
it goes to somebody else. So regardless of what people tell you, good or bad, if you believe it and you see it and you taste it, you smell it,
right.
it's yours for success.
I love the fact that you talk about belief because that unbelief is what causes the doubt, it's what causes the anxiety. And so you're unraveling some things that are really, you know, that really matter. And I love how you actually did a documentary in music as well. And I look at you as one of those disruptors and an advocate. You go into these areas. Tell us about that, a little bit about that first documentary and why you did it.
The first documentary ever done, or the first
First
Dark Girls?
documentary. The first documentary. Do you
Of course,
remember?
my first documentary ever?
Yes. The one, My Father's Music, if I remember
Right,
correctly.
exactly right.
Yeah.
My father's music, jazz, is something that I did in the 80s when early 80s when I was in Oakland. I left, graduated from Rutgers
Hmm.
in New Jersey, and my best friend Eric moved to Oakland, and then I soon followed. I was working in New York part time at Barney's, a men's clothing store at Barney's, and trying to make my way through radio in New York. And I had worked at WBLS for Frankie Crocker as his assistant, along with two other people in the department, three other people in the department. And so I ended up going to Oakland. Excuse me.
That we just did it with Dr. Chan. Dr. Chan has a little bit of a cold today, but he's still here. He's still alive, and he's still pushing through. This is what I'm telling you.
Yeah. So um, throughout my childhood, I had built relationships up with a lot of recording artists, and a lot of them were jazz and R&B artists. So I decided that I would do something on the people that poured into me as a
Mm,
as a young man, as a teenager. So I contacted Dizzy Gillespie,
wow.
Max Roach, Oscar Peterson, McCoy Tyner, Stanley Tarantine, Carlos Santana, Shaka Khan, Miles Davis, Ella Fitzgerald, Nancy Wilson.
Wow. I love the list. I love that Oscar Peterson is in that list too.
Of course,
Canadian, eh?
OP. You can't do anything and not mention OP.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, when they all came through Oakland, they all decided, yes, we would do an interview with you and give me the knowledge. And so that was my first film, and it premiered at the Castro Theater in San Francisco during the jazz festival in Oakland, and it was sold out, and it was well received, but I could have done a better job. So I had two more screenings of it in Oakland, and I pulled the film, and it hasn't been seen since.
So,
And just recently, I've been thinking about trying to raise money to redo the film, re-edit the film, recut the film,
yeah,
and bring the quality up a lot
right.
because there's performances that have never been seen of Oscar Peterson, Nancy Wilson, Miles Davis.
Listen, as we speak it here tonight,
Stanley
we
Turner.
call the resources forward, Chan,
Received.
that you can do
Received.
that, that you can do that. And I want to give you some love here tonight because there's some people loving on you tonight. Serena says, good old WBLIS, grew up listening to that station, you know. Um, they're loving you on here. Serena says, I would have passed out when I got, when I got that call. And J Cell is agreeing with you. Take action on your vision. And you got a fan in here tonight with the good old Dr. Vibe saying greetings,
Greetings, Dr. Vibe.
you know. And
My
of course,
brother.
yeah, I know your brother from another mother. And, we're wishing you feeling better.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
and J Cell, I love that you went for it and contacted the greats, And it's this there's something about, being a documentarian, you you're that librarian. You're the history maker that people can go back. It's not just a movie. It's something that one can always go back and learn from. And I really appreciate that from you. Go ahead, Chan.
it's interesting you say that because just today, a friend of mine contacted me and said something that I thought was really, really a great idea that is done in other countries. Making a library
Mm-hmm.
out of people. Let me explain. She said that you would go to a library, take out a book, read it.
Yes.
With your library card. This facility, you would pick a person to talk to for 30 minutes.
What an idea.
And I thought, wow, how great is that? That you would have a conversation with someone about a particular subject or about him or her,
Mm-hmm.
his life,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be a one on one situation. The human library.
I like that idea. I hope
So,
somebody runs with it. If I had the money, I'd run with it right now.
yeah, my friend Kim out of Chicago, she came up with that.
Well, she needs to run with it.
I thought it was brilliant.
And you know what? It makes me think of the pandemic. When we think about a human library and we think about the pandemic and people being in isolation and not being able to talk to one another, in the way that they would socialize, it actually would be a really great idea for now. What did you learn about yourself during the pandemic? How did it affect you?
I'm a person who doesn't go out. I don't do the Hollywood thing at all.
Hmm.
I was fine.
Me too.
I,
Me too.
you know, people think I have this amazing life that I'm out partying and
Yeah.
person up with that person. And my wife will tell you that this Negro is in the house.
Hmm.
He's in the house, either watching movies, listening to music, or dealing with my sons, or talking to my friends who come over, or my family members who come over stuff. But I don't go out. I don't party. I
Hmm.
go to movies. I may go to a jazz club from time to time. Go to a concert from time to time, the Hollywood Bowl or something like that. But so for me, being home during the pandemic was like, oh, this is lovely. When people think about, I, I I am a people person, but I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. You're an omnivert. You're kind of like an omnivert, like, the extrovert introvert kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's what my wife calls me a closet conservative who wears hippie clothes.
What was a key lesson that you think you learned about yourself during the pandemic?
I don't mind being alone.
Ah,
I like myself.
that right there, I like myself because so many people, I realized through the pandemic, and I love how you answered the question when I asked you who was Chance and Berry. It wasn't tied to a job; it was tied to you, the person. And I think in the pandemic, so many people lost themselves because their identity was tied to what they did instead of who they were.
Mm.
And when you look at the men around your life,
Mm.
the men that you connect with, because I know that you are for the brothers. You really lift up men. You do a great amount of work for men and supporting men. What are your concerns? You know, I know this is a really big topic, so I'm going to try and bring it down a little bit because I know you're not feeling your best tonight. But what are your concerns for men, especially now in this pandemic,
A concern for men.
especially black men?
Well, I think to me, the definition of manhood has changed over the last 25
Hmm.
years. What equates to manhood, I don't really know.
Hmm.
It's not the physical mass of a man's body that says he's that identifies him as so much as a man. It's not as tall, it's not as small, it's not short, big. I think what makes a man is here
Hmm.
and here. It's the same thing that makes a human
Right.
here. But I'm dressed in this physical body for now that calls me male. But I am sensitive, I'm ornery, sometimes I'm bright, and sometimes I'm a leader.
Hmm. And how could black women, in particular, support black men?
You always have. There's nothing that we can get away from that. You always have. You always will.
But you
That
hear so much.
that that has been our cornerstone for our existence.
But it's interesting, and I ask you that too because, you know, sometimes black women here, depending on where you live, and I think it all depends on where you live and where you grew up, but it's Canada, the Caribbean. But, I hear a lot of women, especially complaining about black men not appreciating the black woman and black women not appreciating the black men. How can we do better to
I think
really be there for each other?
men could be better listeners.
Mm,
Sometimes a woman wants a man to show up for her just in silence. That we don't have to solve everything.
mhm.
Sometimes she just needs us to show up and
Right,
just be there.
right.
Most men I know are fixers, but most men I know don't listen.
Mm,
And I've been blessed to interview hundreds of women around the world. And I wish brothers could have the same experience that I've had, or men, period,
hmm.
to just sit and listen.
Yeah.
I am a better husband, father, friend, brother because of that. I've always been super sensitive.
Right.
I've always been creative. Some people say that's a very feminine female trait, creativity.
Really.
That's why I call the universe her.
Ah, ah,
People get offended when I pray, I say Father, Mother, God.
mhm.
God is all things
Right.
to me.
I love how you put that into context, the creativity and the creativity of women, and people are putting creativity into to the feminine side. But men are so creative. They're some of the most creative beings in all of the earth. And you said something about, and I really appreciate what you said about men listening. And I think it's a communication thing. I think we have been a society that we have stopped listening. And you said, you spoke about the ability to have gone around the world and interviewed hundreds of women. So I want to pause for a minute, and I want to, before we go into the next part of the conversation, because when I think about the impacts of racism on our mental health,
Mm.
and dark girls and dark girls too. For those of you who haven't had the honor or the privilege to see it, I just want to play a little clip. So let's see if I got this right here today, Chan. You know, I'm before the filmmaker people. Give me grace. Give me grace today. So let's see. Let's see if we get this right here.
Dark girls. I can remember being in the bathtub asking my mom to put bleach in the water so that my skin would be lighter. If we're all just hanging around and a dark skinned girl will pass by, oh, well, she's pretty for a dark skinned girl. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? I think I remember most saying that, if I had a little girl, I didn't want her to be dark. This is not a phenomenon. It's just the reality in the black culture.
I mean, dark skinned women. I don't really like dark skinned women. Like, they look funny beside me.
The impact that it has on those young children spiritually is that they actually start to devalue themselves in such a way where the spirit begins to shrink. The consequences of not dealing with this issue is that we lay the foundation for future generations of black women to deal with the madness. It becomes the norm for how we see ourselves.
One of the most popular products in the third world is skin whitening cream, which gives us a little bit of an idea of how people's perceptions of themselves. I mean, we're talking here about regions of the world where the overwhelming majority are not white.
We have a need for each other, a need for someone to show us, to lead us through example.
I think it's dangerous to not question things.
We need to become the architects of our own self-image. You are the keeper of your own soul.
You are the keeper of your own soul. Like, I've watched that trailer so many times. Chan, what made you and Bill Duke even do the first Dark Skin Girls? I mean, it was aired, and for those of you who don't know, Dark Skin Girls was aired on the OWN network. It is so profound, and I'll tell you, if you haven't seen it, Google it. You can buy it and look at it. Just saying.
Thank you.
Chan doesn't need the plug, but I'm just saying, you need to go look at it.
What made me and Bill Duke do Dark Girls 1? Being two dark-skinned little boys who grew up in East Orange, Newark, him growing up in Poughkeepsie, I wasn't the first choice for the girls. I was too dark. I was too ugly. I was too thin and nappy-headed. So those things played a horrible part in my coming of age, my lack of self-esteem. So not only being shut down verbally, I was shut down socially. So I understood when Bill and I decided to do Dark Girls 1, what it meant to be dark skinned and to be not seen or wanted or loved. It wasn't a great childhood in that aspect until later on I got into college and things started to change. And then I started seeing things differently. And I think young women started seeing me differently. And I started seeing myself differently. I was shy, but once you knew me, I wasn't really shy. Um, my friends will tell you that who went to school with me, especially college. But I felt that dark skinned women were still going through it when black dark skinned men like me were not. Because of people like Richard Roundtree, Sidney Poitier, Eddie Murphy, Wesley Snipes, dark men were seen being sexy and being handsome. That helped me a lot. But it still continued for dark skinned women. And I tapped into that. Bill and I tapped into that river of pain and anxiety and depression. And we decided to do Dark Girls 1. Then I went on to do Dark Girls 2. And Bill went on to do some other things. But I wanted to answer the question in Dark Girls 2, what does healing look like for dark skinned women? What could it possibly look like? So that question was not answered in Dark Girls 1, but it's answered in Dark Girls 2. Nicole, I can't hear you.
Of course, you can't hear me, Chan, because when I was coughing, I put myself on mute, and I'm having this conversation with me, myself, and I. Right. And I was saying, in Dark Girls 2, and one of the things that came out about this skin whitening, it's one of the most popular products in the continent. And you know what's funny, Chan?
Mm.
Last night, I clicked on to Netflix. The cable here wasn't working, and I clicked onto Netflix, and God is so good. He's so funny. And there was this movie called Savage Beauty. And little did I know it was an African made movie, and it was about the whole skin whitening conglomerate. And there I was watching this whole series, prepping for this show tonight. Little did I know it was going to be part of this show tonight,
Mm. Mm.
because it's such a big industry. It is still such a big industry that dark skinned women, the paper bag test, the that we are still, you high color and you're this, and there's that inner racism within our own race of
Yes.
black women and black men, and lessons learned from dark girls too, and even speaking to women around the world. What would be some of those lessons that you learned that could even help some of the women that are listening here, or some of the men that are raising girls, or some of the men that are married to black women, or anybody who has to come into contact with a black woman? What would be some of those messages that you can give them, because it surely affects our mental health and wellness?
Everybody has preferences. You're
Right.
attracted. You're attracted to who you're attracted to,
Right.
and I think you're attracted to the things that you grew up around. Your mother being the first person,
Right.
and then if you have sisters, what they look like, and how much did media, television, film play in that choosing the image that you think or you loved, you fell in love with. So There's beauty everywhere. Dark, light, brown, white. There's beauty everywhere. And I think black men who have daughters, regardless of what color, shade, should emphasize how much your daughter means to you
Yes.
and how beautiful she is. And that she is the person who makes a difference.
Mm, that she is a person who makes a difference. I love that.
As for mothers, there have been some stories I've heard of mothers denying their daughters because of skin color.
Yes.
Tragic, shameful, painful. Traumatic.
Yes.
But understanding that those mothers have issues themselves
Mm,
with color, and maybe because of their mother or their father had issues with color, and that was passed down. I know families who only marry light skinned people who marry light skinned
yes.
people, and they keep it like that.
Hmm.
Which is interesting to me. Then I know light skinned men, excuse me, who are in love with dark skinned men, dark skinned women.
That's a woman. Right.
But depending on what era you grew up in or growing up in, you know, probably will determine your choices and who you fall in love with, and also your community
Right.
and what your choices are.
But how do we heal? Because it's so painful when you look at, um, and I think you saw a lot of it, and I saw it a lot in Dark Girls too. When I watched Dark Girls too, and you heard the girls speaking, and they had to bleach the bleaching of their skins with things that are just poisonous,
Mm.
and in a continent where it's so different than, you're in a place where you're not in North America where you're getting this mix, this really big mix, but you're in a country, in a continent, you're in countries across the continent where you see people like you, yet there is this need to change who I am. And what was one thing, if or a couple things that you heard from the woman that could bring some healing? Because we go back to the mental health of it, and I think that's part of it. When I look at the documentary.
If you call yourself a child of God,
Right.
are you telling me that God made a mistake
Mm,
when He made you?
I love that question. I love that.
If you call yourself a child of God, a child of the universe,
Right.
are you saying that God made a mistake when He made you, and you're going to fix it?
That's powerful. Seeing the gift that you are, accepting the gift that you are, believing in who you are, and loving who you are.
You
So,
you are a combination of everything that ever was
mm,
on this planet. You are historical, you're relevant. Every particle of your existence is the same particles that exist in the universe. Hydrogen, all that stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're everything, but you're connected. And I don't think people understand the power that they have in that.
Now, I'm so glad that you're here, able to even sharing it through your documentaries. And I mean, when we look at mental health and wellness, we look at the films that you're doing. You're working on one now called
Mm.
The Covered Mind,
Mm.
Mental Health in the Black Community. Why is it so important for you to get this particular film done? Because I know you're working on many. I mean, you're working on Francesca, and I'm sure there's a whole plethora of stuff that I don't even know that you're working on, Jan. Um, yeah. So, but why in this one particularly? I'm going to focus on this one as we're talking about minding our minds and mental health and why it matters. Why is this so important for you to do the covered mind?
The reason why I'm doing the covered mind, mental illness in the Black community, I believe that every single one of us is on the spectrum of mental illness.
Mm,
Every single one of us. How couldn't? How could you not be and be Black? I often say, I wonder what it feels like to live and not survive. Survival takes a toll on one's spirit, mind, soul, and body, and finance. It's never been equal,
right.
especially in America. It's never been equal. Will it ever be equal? Doubt it.
Hmm.
There's so much abuse that has happened to African Americans and Black people on the planet, but especially to African Americans. And we never had the chance to get professional help until now.
Right.
I have been in therapy for 27 years. I don't mind saying that
Hmm.
because I want to become healthier. In order to continue to do the work that has been laid upon me to do, I need to be present. And Nicole, some of the stories I've heard in my life and doing the interviews with people all around the world, some of that has stuck
Right.
and I didn't know how to dump.
Mm,
So before it got too bad, I sought out therapy.
right.
For me, there are four therapies that I do. There's talk therapy with my therapist. There is um, massage therapy, hypnosis, acupuncture.
Mm,
If I do one of those things once a week, straight. And when I don't do that, I'm off.
right.
I'm a little off, a little overwhelmed. But I think that all of us have options now.
Hmm.
It's not taboo to be Black and wanting to be healthy, mentally healthy.
Yeah. You know what, Chan? It's still taboo in so many places, though. But I think with even conversations like this and people speaking out, and the fact that you even said you've heard so many conversations in the world in your time, and I even think about like therapists. I even think about people who are going through trauma. The fact that you have recognized that I have to release this. And I love that you said you didn't just take one thing to do it. Your self care embodies several things. And if you don't do at least one of these things a week, you have recognized that it changes how you feel and who you are. And I really am so appreciative of your transparency. Um, And some may call it vulnerability, but I don't even think it's being vulnerable. I think it's just being true to who you are and the lessons that you've learned around along the way. And so I really appreciate that.
That's a part of, to me, being truthful with oneself is a part of being a man also.
Hmm.
Vulnerable. Being able, but also being unable.
Andrea says she loved the statement. It's not taboo to be black and want to be mentally healthy. So, so good. If I could say it in her voice, it would be amazing. Andrea Bowie is an amazing psychotherapist. And she's so gentle. She's one of the most gentlest souls I know in this world. That she just has a gift of healing. You got to meet her, Chan. You got to meet this one. Yeah, you will. You will.
Yeah.
And I'm going back in the conversation. You mentioned briefly, and as I think about the pandemic, I think about you recognizing you've met a lot of people along the way. But I know in the pandemic, um, you had to deal with grief.
Hmm.
And when I think about mentorship and the importance of mentorship, um, and one of your mentors transitioned in this season. How important is mentorship, and what was the impact of him in your life? And you
Well,
can share with them who he is if you so choose.
yeah. Actually, three of them passed in a month. All three of them
What?
passed in a month.
Three?
Yeah, all three of my mentors passed in a month. I was devastated.
Wow.
First one was Sidney Poitier.
Yes.
The second one was James Ntume, music producer,
Hmm.
writer. The third one was Max.
And if this is too tough to chat, you don't have to.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Um, I wasn't expecting all three to leave
Hmm.
like that, but they did. It makes you appreciate time spent
Hmm.
with elders.
Yes.
It also makes you appreciate that they took the time out of their lives
Hmm.
to download into you gifts of wisdom, insight, manhood, perseverance, uplift, Q sci-fi. Um, I miss them terribly.
Hmm.
So Sidney Poitier, for me, was the first person that really hit me visually
Hmm.
from Blackboard Jungle, his movie Blackboard Jungle, up until we became friends in the 80s, and I would do what I would call my love drive-bys on Sydney.
You love drive-bys. Love it.
So what that meant was that a love drive-by for me on Sydney is that I felt that I wanted to love on him. I'd go by the house.
Okay, so we got to pause right there. People, we need to do some love drive-bys with the people you love in your life. If you didn't get anything out of this conversation today, do some love drive-bys. On pause. Keep going, Shan.
Yeah. So it was difficult towards the end to see him you know,
Mhm. Change. Yeah.
sicker, you know. Same thing with James and Tume also, but he was in James was in and Tume was in Jersey, and Max is out here. So you know, it was bad enough losing my parents. My mother passed 2 years ago, Mother's Day. My father passed 2015, June.
Hmm.
So May and June are really not great months for me, but I try to move on
Right.
because that's what I'm supposed to do is to move on.
However,
But however, I cannot negate the fact that my love for my parents and for those three men exists deeply. And I don't know for those who have lost parents, it's a terrible, terrible thing.
mhm,
Terrible thing. You know, over time, you just find a place for it, but it never leaves you.
right.
It never leaves you. So I struggle sometimes daily. Still, a song,
Hmm.
somebody mentions my mother or my father or Max or Intume or Sydney, I go someplace else. You know. But I think when you really connect with people and they leave such indelible impressions on you and you on them, it's hard to see people leave, physically leave, and not be here to answer the questions.
Hmm.
It's hard. But, you know, the other thing is this I turned around and now I'm the elder.
Yes.
The question was, where did everybody go?
Mm. And so now you have the gift of taking the wisdom that you have gleaned from your elders who mentored you into pouring into others. And it's funny, it comes out so organically and so naturally on your even your social media. Like you'll just drop those words, and even through the music that you share, and it's even coming through that the films that you and the documentaries that you're deliberately choosing to make. And just listening to you tonight, I even understand a little bit more why that is so important that you share that part of life and love. um, and as Serena says, yes, now you're the elder, and and we honor you as an elder in our community, in our country, in our world, that is sharing. And at the beginning of the conversation, for those of you who missed it, you need to go back. I asked Chan, what does victory mean? And as I listen to you now, to me this is another victory moment,
Mm.
because when I hear how you have reconciled and are reconciling at the moment with the transition of three of your mentors and your parents during this pandemic. You are taking that pain that could be so detrimental to one's health, and you're finding purpose in it, and you're using it to propel you in a powerful way. I don't know where the P's are coming from, but it feels good. You're persevering, you're getting powerful. You can take some of it, Chan, you can use it. I'll try and write a song.
You know what? Excuse me. My best songs have been written out of pain.
Mm. It's therapeutic, isn't it? Isn't music therapy?
Oh my God. Oh my God. When I'm not able to talk to my friends, I let music talk to me.
Mm. When I'm not able to talk to my friends, I let music talk to me. How do you know what song to go to? Is it just like a gut thing that you just know because you have
You
a
just know.
plethora of
You,
music?
you just know
No.
that mood. You just know where you are and what you need to hear,
Mm.
either to take you someplace or to keep you where you are.
Shan, I'm going to
You,
give you some of your flowers right now. I'm going to give you some of your flowers right now. I'm going to let Dr. Boweya say something first. Music is therapeutic indeed. And I'm going to give you some flowers from the man himself, Dr. Vibe. I love Chan. He makes me a better human being, a better person, a better black man. I honor him forever.
that's my
The
brother.
elder. And I read that purposely because you are now one of the elders in the room.
Yeah, that's kind of deep. You know,
Kind of like you, eh?
I don't know if I'm deep, but
Who's different?
some people say I'm a bit shallow. Um, um, hmm, I don't
I know
know.
you have to. I know you have to say la on that. What is if you were to think about the people that we just spoke of,
Mm.
and I know it's probably hard to even comprehend some of it, but is there any piece of advice that was given to you, words of wisdom, not necessarily advice or words of wisdom, things or mottos that or lessons you've learned from them that you think you could share with somebody who's listening who didn't have, especially some of us had elders, some of us didn't have those elders speaking into our lives.
All
Uh,
three, all three of them told me to be me.
ooh, all three told you to be you.
That's right. Continue to be you.
That's deep.
Sydney told me that. My brother James Mtume told me that. Max Julian told me that. And when I look at all three of them, they all were very independent men who did their own thing, who set their own courses. Sydney set his own course. James Mtume set his own course. Max Julian set his own course. And regardless of the outcome, they were their own men.
Mm.
They were their own men.
I almost feel like I want to bring some of the men on with you, Jan,
Mm,
and speak about the identity of men.
mm.
Continue to be you.
Yes.
We,
I tell you that I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Q's. I love the brotherhood.
mhm.
I love the camaraderie. I love my line brothers and my fraternity. Hey, you're not going to get along with everybody. It's a
Right,
family,
right,
you know.
right.
But the ones you connect with, lifelong. And I think as men, if we could learn to trust, first of all, yourself, then you can trust somebody else. We would be better men, better fathers, better parents, better brothers, better businessmen, better sons, better friends. We just learn to trust. We can't believe what that everything that everybody said about us is true.
You know you gotta explanate, right? Come on now.
So some people want to call us angry.
Mhm.
And my response to that, if you've been through what I've been through, wouldn't you?
And we drop the mic. End of show. We're done. If
Nobody wants to trade sides with me.
Come on now.
If you've been through what I've been through in this country,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you be a little angry? I'm not going to suppress a natural reaction. I'm not going to let you kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let you take me out over something that I never did to you. I never killed you.
Right.
I never hung you. I never raped you. I never shot you. I never stopped you from getting housing. I never redlined you. I never stopped you from voting. But you did that to me. So wouldn't you be a little angry?
Mm.
I'm just asking you a question.
And that is, when we're dealing with right now the replacement theory and all this stuff that where people are conjuring up, when we're dealing with, the last week with the shootings in the U.S., you know, it is really a good question.
This is the reality that the population here in America is changing.
Mm-hmm.
The color is changing. So you have people wanting to hold on and fight to their death, holding on to what they think they have or had. So they will do anything and everything and spew all this kind of hatred and
Mm-hmm.
venom on people who look like you and I,
Right.
who never did anything to you. The reality is enslaved people, stolen land, stolen people, stolen dreams. I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
People like me who didn't do that. Then, when enslavement is over, we're just thrown to the wind.
Right.
And then rejected because you're saying that we're not qualified even being human. But the reason why you took people from Africa, stole people from Africa to come here because you couldn't do the work yourself.
Right.
And what people have to understand is this: the enslavement of the African, they didn't take the weakest,
They took the strongest.
they took the strongest and the brightest and the best,
Yes.
because the weakest would have never made the middle passage. So, this is where we come from as a people. We come from the strongest, the brightest, and the best. What more do you need now to understand that and be uplifted by that?
That's a powerful piece right there. And I think if anyone listening live and on the replay, you have to talk to anyone, a black man or black woman. Remember, you came from the strongest, the brightest, and the best, because that reshapes and helps you to recognize the identity that you were created to be you and stand in the truth of who you are. And it's okay to be you and be you. I'm Chan, like, I when I talk to you, I get lost in conversation. I'm like, okay, people, yeah. So Chan and I are just having a conversation. Welcome into our living room. This is a Victory Speak show. We're glad you're joining us here today, uh, because it is so true. And you're so right to break it down. He is breaking it down. He is breaking it down. And this is what a conversation with. This is why I call him Dr. Berry, because when I have a conversation with him, I feel like I'm in a master class, and I can understand. And I hope people listening can understand. This is why you do the documentaries that you do. It's always mind-boggling. It's always stirring something, and and I can see why you have the mentors that you have. And I know you haven't been feeling well, so I'm trying to be cognizant of all the questions I have for you, Chan. What are you gonna do? Listening to what you just said, what are you working on next? What's coming up next for you?
I have to gather funds to finish up the Covered Mind, mental illness in the Black community. Um, right now in post-production and audio mix is my film, my dramatic film, dramatic love story called Francesca that I shot in Greece
And
last
you
summer.
didn't take me with you. You didn't take me with you. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to be in it. Jeez.
I'm sorry. But so I shot Francesca, and 98% of the cast and crew was Greek, 2% African American. Love story, short film, 40 minutes. And I plan on doing a lot of short films.
Right.
And trying to not so much move away from documentaries, but I want to do more of the narrative, working with actors and telling stories. There is a project that I'm working on with my buddy Tavis Smiley and Ruben Neverett. And that is a 4-part series called My Black, My Brown, the relationship between brown people in America.
Wow.
Fascinating. So that's the one that we're trying to raise funds for right now.
It's interesting that you said raise funds, and I think what people need to also hear is you can have made a film, you can have, but you always have to be raising funds. They think it's this easy process. And I think one day we need to bring some filmmakers on and really explain this process, because they see it on there, but they think somebody's just going to hand you money because you know this person and because you know that person. Money's falling into your hand.
Not true.
Yeah.
Every project that I do starts with my pocket,
Right.
and I solicit funds because I can't do this alone.
Listen, I declare some funds to you because we need some of these things out.
Yeah, that's the worst part for me is trying to ask people for funding. That's the worst part of it for me. It's not my nature.
Yeah.
I just rather do the work.
Well, people, you heard it here. You got to ask people for funding, because it's not just coming to you. And we need to get these documentaries done. And me, I'm big up in that the Covered Mind. I can't wait to get that one done. Like, I'm like, somebody give me the how many whatever we need to do that one here, because it's so important.
Because I'm coming to Canada, to work.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I'm coming to Toronto to do interviews with people up there, Black folks up there. And thank you for the help in that, and thank you, Dr. Vibe, for the help in that also. Dr. Vibe started this whole thing.
He's a conduit.
My brother. So he his father and I, we have similar tastes. We both collect music and records, so I can't get there. I can't wait to get there and talk to him.
I don't know how long you're coming for. I think you have to come up here for like 3 months or something. This 1 week thing is not gonna work. Okay, so I'm gonna be good. You said something recently, and I literally I had to write it down. You said sometimes it's so hard for a man to speak about real love without breaking it down. What did you mean by that?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
You wrote, "It's so hard sometimes for a man to speak about real love without breaking it down."
What did I mean by that?
Yes, sir.
Love for us is, it's different.
Mm,
There's always that Mars Venus thing. You know, when a man loves, he loves,
mm,
and we become vulnerable.
mm,
We let all guards down, and depending who we're dealing with, will honor that gift.
mhm,
But the moment you abuse that gift, sends us into a tornado,
mm.
and we shut it down. And some of us can be so hurt so deeply that we start to do things to women that they don't deserve because of that they're in the way of the tornado.
Okay, I see our next conversation. Men, broken love, how it affects women and the people that they love. Okay, that's going to be a good panel discussion there. Woo, that was good. I really like that, and I thank you for your honesty in that. If you could say one thing about your work, Chan, what would it be?
Healing, hopefully. Healing, yes. That's what I want it to be.
I think that's what it is. I think it's, see, we have, you see it, so you see how many victory moments you're calling out as we're talking about. Just saying, just saying. If something happened tomorrow,
Mm.
God forbid, and every piece of information, post, video, article, documentary, music, accidentally got deleted, and you could keep one message for the world, and you wanted them to see that message, what would that message be?
From me or about me or to what
Anything. It's your stuff. Everything gets wiped, is getting wiped out, but you could think one thing from your stuff, from your films, your music, your plethora of work. What would the message you would want the world to see?
I came here for good.
Mm, I came here for good. I love that. I love that, Chan.
You got me emotional.
Well, it's my gift. What can I say? I didn't succeed in not making you cry. You didn't cry, so I don't know if I succeeded.
Almost
I,
twice.
I don't know if I succeeded, but I think I pulled. I think your coughing pulled you back from the edge. I think it was, the coughing pulled you back from the edge.
Yeah, thank God.
And Chad, as we wind down tonight, and I know I said to you earlier in that certain space where you were, what would you have said to your younger self? But is there a point in your younger life now, looking back at your life? You have over, 30 years as a filmmaker. I'm not going to age you on here, but you're an elder now in the community. And
I'm
so
six,
as an
I'm
elder, what would you
I'm,
say to your younger self? What was that?
I'm 63. I'm proud of my age.
63 years young, and you're looking good, my brother.
Thank you.
What would you say to your younger self? What would you say if so? You're 63. What could you even have said to your 36-year-old self?
I got you.
Ooh,
Yes.
and so as we wind down tonight, is there a message, any word that you want to say to anyone that comes to your heart when it comes to their mental health and wellness? Because you spoke about, you spoke about taking care of your own mental health. You've seen so many things along the way. You're a filmmaker. No, you're not a filmmaker. One of the things you do is filmmaking. You're a man of many talents. Um, Serena's still like, wow, I got you. Oh Lord, Dr. Vibe is just falling apart here at the seams. I'm waiting to see you and my dad together. He's gonna be a hot mess. I'm gonna just drop off like 6 boxes of tissues and leave. And we'll bring all the men together. We're gonna get Kwame, and we're gonna get, all the key men, and we're gonna just put you guys in one room for a week. See what happens in Toronto. Okay, back to my original question.
Yes.
What's a word that you would want to leave here tonight? You get almost the last word.
You have purpose, you have meaning, and you're here for a very, very good reason. And you have lived, survived, because your work is not finished.
Mm,
Stay true to yourself. And when you tap into where you're supposed to be, it's never about you, it's about everybody else. So when you tap into the stream of consciousness, that's where healing and faith and abundance is. You take yourself out of the picture and you do for others.
mm. I love that. I love that, Chan. That D. Channsin Berry. I am so honored that you were able to find the time to come on here tonight. Our conversation, I'm sad that it's over, but I know it's not our last conversation. To those of you live and on the replay, if you've loved this conversation, let Chan know. Thank you for entering this special place that we curated just for you. And as we leave this space, I just want to speak to you about some tools that you can even think about. Think about what Chan said. Don't just let this be a conversation of, oh, I was in here, and don't be a voyeur. Take some action. Take those messages that were shared. Be intentional. Cultivate that vision for your mental health and wellness. What does a victory mindset look like to you? Reflect on what is being said to you today. Can you see the unique beauty that is you? You know what I'm saying? And every day, find the victories in your day. Selah, pause. I remember, Chan, as I grew up in the Caribbean, in Trinidad, the motto for our school was, we didn't have fraternities, but our schools had mottos, and one of them was Carpe Diem, seize the day. So I say to you people, seize the day. And every day is going to be different. Speak victory over your life today, into yourself today. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Come back strong in this spring of your life. You know, be, voracious in yourself. Every day seek to have an inspired conversation. I love, Chan, when you said, have you would do a drive by a love drive by Sydney Poitier. And so sometimes we need to do that. This pandemic has taught us so many lessons that we have to honor the elders. I thank you. Chan shared his heart as he shared those that have transitioned in his life, but what they said to him and what they meant to him. And so we need to cherish those moments. Can you cherish the people in your life today? Do not take anyone for granted. Don't see yourself where you are. See yourself where you're supposed to be. See yourself in the future. For without a vision, the people perish. Today, give yourself permission to dream and believe again. Have that vision. Be intentional. Cultivate the vision. I see Chan cultivating it in everything that he does. And you will not just transform your life, you'll transform the lives of everyone around you. Give yourself some ovation. Give others ovation around you. Rest, be restored. And my friends, in order to have victory, you got to yield to the process. You got to be humble. And my friend and my new brother, Chan, has shown what humility looks like in action by what he does. And if you want to see this live again, be sure to go to YouTube and check out Victory Speak 7, and you can follow us on all the social media platforms. And this show is not about me, it's about you It's about you learning, you being your best self, and living a life of victory. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everybody who shared their thoughts and saying, "Wow, amazing show." We loved having you, Serena. You were so into it. And you know what, Chan? Serena is such an advocate. And I gotta make sure that we also mention, Chan, that I almost forgot your charity. I'm wrapping up, and your charity for lupus.
It's not in existence anymore.
Okay,
Um, but I still support um, lupus patients
okay,
whenever
okay.
I can. Whenever I can, yeah.
And Serena is a big advocate for Lyme disease. Sure, she's a survivor of Lyme disease, and she has been doing a lot of work in that. So, for everybody live and on the replay, thank you for tuning in. Chen and I are going to bid you good night. Be sure V for victory. L for love, and remember, love is in the details. Love on somebody today, even if it starts with a smile. Take care and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.